Last episode of 2020, and it's a doozy. It's Ryan Myers. He grew up in Florida, studied marine biology. He's an absolute champion spearo. He's multiple IUSA spearfishing record holder. He's a genuinely nice dude, loves spearfishing. This episode, we chat deep reef hunting. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Isaac, aka Shrek, host of the Noob Spearo podcast. If this is your first time here, jeepers, you've jumped on a good one to get started. I've got to give you the hot tip. Today, we're off to chat with Ryan. He's another spearfishing legend from around the world. Shares his tips, wisdom, stories, and hard-won advice for you guys, the frothing noobers, the community. Awesome to be bringing this with you today, and I'm genuinely excited. We're seeing out the end of 2020 together. And before we get into this interview, I wanted to start off with some thank yous. Obviously, I'm rounding out the year, so I'm feeling a little bit sentimental, but massive thank you to you guys, the listeners. Thanks for listening, subscribing, sharing the show with your mates. Bloody awesome. I've had a good year in spite of some of the drama on the outside. I hope you guys have too, and I hope you've been getting out spearing and enjoying yourselves. I did just get interrupted by a delivery man. It's some Aqualite products from Ben over there in WA. He wrote me in for a recommendation for a guest, believe it or not. The guy's name's Bert Calder. He's WA Undersea Club, Old Man Blue Dive, has some fantastic gear getting around. I'm hoping to get him on the show next year. So thanks, Ben, for the package. Good timing for you. It arrived right while I was doing the intro for the show. Also, back to the thank yous. Massive thank you to the team. Pat Dwyer, Impact Podcasting, edits just about every podcast. I have had some interns helping out, Robin and Joe. Massive thanks to you guys, the audio team, that have just managed to get the podcast up to scratch this year in spite of some of my awkward moments and stuff. A massive thank you to you guys. Also, Olivia and Stephen, behind the scenes team, helping out bits and pieces with all sorts of stuff. Massive thanks to you guys. And of course, a big thank you to the sponsors. The guys also couldn't do without them. Adreno Neptonics, Killshot Spear Guns, Penetrator Fins, Spearing Mag, Immersion Freediving, and more. And also, biggest thanks of all, possibly, these are all big thanks, the Patreon listeners, patreon.com/Noob Spearo. There's more than 35 Patreon listeners that are supporting the show on an episode-by-episode basis. Massive thanks to you guys. I wanted to get quickly into some shout-outs, and then we'll hook into this exciting episode with Ryan. Bear with me for 2 seconds. In Adreno, you can now use the Noob Spearo code in-store and on their Scuba store. Enjoy it. You can use the Noob Spearo code to save $20 on every purchase over $200. It's one per store, one limit per person in store. So awesome for them. I wanted to shout out to @Kiwa_NZ on Instagram. KIWA_NZ. Mad weight belts made by this cool little company out of New Zealand, making awesome weight belts, t-shirts, and different products. Massive shout out to you guys. I want to get Esther on the show at some stage too. The Spear Junkies, I hope you got in to listen to last week's episode. 11 10-minute episodes of some of the craziest spearing you've ever seen. Check it out. It's under $10. You can watch the first episode for free at spearjunkies.com. Get on, check that out. Buy yourself a Christmas present. It's well worth it. Jarvis sent me in a quick email. He's a young Indigenous filmmaker from the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. Mad Spearo's got a cool YouTube channel. He's also offered to help guys if they've got footage building up in the background, you've got nothing to do with it, you really want to get some of it all edited and out the door. Jarvis can help you out. His email is Jarvis, JAHVISASSAN @gmail.com. If you want to find this, I will link this up in today's show notes. If you go to noobspearo.com/Ryan Myers, nice and simple, then I'll have Jarvis's details linked up there. Last but not least, one quick review from the podcast. Cullum says, highly recommend this podcast. The amount of knowledge that you can obtain throughout this podcast will be second to none. Love the banter and the diversity of topics discussed. Anyway, huge intro. Massive thank you to you guys. Let's hook into it. Last episode of 2020, Ryan Myers. Boom, here we go. This episode of the Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you by spearfishing.com.au. They've been on board for more than 100 episodes, and I'd love for you to shop at spearfishing.com.au. They have a price beat guarantee, hassle-free returns, flat shipping rates across Australia, and you can save $20. For every purchase over $200, if you use the code NoobSpearo, you save $20. Thanks for supporting the Noob Spearo podcast and shopping with spearfishing.com.au. Partners of the Noob Spearo podcast, Neptonics.com. Neptonics offers the best spearfishing gear, spear guns, carbon fins, spear gun parts and packages at the lowest prices. Go to Neptonics.com, use the code NOOB10 to save 10% off anything at Neptonics.com. NOOB10. Boom! Welcome to the show, Ryan Myers. It's awesome to have you with us and joining the Noob Spearo community. And it's been a while to get you on here, but I'm excited, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So you grew up in Stuart, Florida. Fantastic part of the world. Floridians are famous all over the world. Normally you type in, like I remember a little joke on Google, you type in Florida man and then your name and then just push enter and then just
Guaranteed.
Yeah, and let's I'm just going to do a little experiment right now.
Oh my gosh, I've never done this.
Florida man Isaac. Here we go. I can't. Hang on. Sentenced to 80 years for committing sex. No, I don't want to do that one. I can't find any good funny ones straight off the bat, but what do you do?
That's funny. I just typed mine in.
What did you get? Give it to me.
I'm just hoping I don't see any of my mugshots here. You know? Florida man climbs the top playground. I don't know. But,
Florida man Isaac arrested for slapping woman outside Walmart. Yeah,
that's standard. That could be anybody in Florida.
If people type in Florida man Ryan Myers, though, they're definitely going to see something different. You've been spearfishing for a long time. You've had a pretty special journey. I love your YouTube channel, man. It's full of stoke, good vibes. You know, there's a bit of humility mixed in there with some good safety messages and some really spectacular hunting.
I've been working really hard on it. Really, really hard. So.
Man, we're going to hook in today in the Veterans Vault. I just want to give people a bit of a teaser. We're going to talk about deep reef hunting techniques. I've got a ton of questions here from the Noob Spearo community. So should we hook in?
Let's go.
All right, cool. So you grew up in Stuart, Florida. Tell us about getting started spearfishing in that part of the world.
Well, Florida's really cool, especially like where I grew up. I mean, I grew up on the river in Florida and in my little town of kind of Palm City, right across the bridge from Stuart. You either had a horse or a boat. And I had a boat. So it was you went one way or the other. I mean, we're a stone's throw away from the sticks. Yeah. And we're, 60 miles from the Bahamas, 80 miles from the Bahamas. So it was a very natural thing to kind of like grow up and be fishing and diving and snorkeling and spearfishing and whatever. And kind of one of the I'm kind of pissed about, like, I didn't find spearfishing until I was like 14, 15. And, before that, like I was fishing hard. And, I got my first boat when I was like, fourth grade, whatever that was. And it was me in the river and fishing every day. That was it. That's all I did. It was a really cool way to grow up. And then that kind of turned into snorkeling and scuba diving, which then eventually turned into spearfishing. And once I went spearfishing, I never looked back. That was it. That's all I do now.
So who introduced you to it?
It was actually, I guess my first one was like a Boy Scout trip. It was a Boy Scout trip to the Bahamas. Took a sailboat over there for 2 weeks and pole spears over there. And that was it. Then came back and got a little JBL 24-inch spear gun and wounded a lot of fish with that. And then a little bit older, I think I was like 16 and I got a Rob Allen 120 and that was it. Never looked back from there.
And you're a pipe gun man now, aren't you?
All pipe guns, yeah, all rail guns. That's it. I like my roller rail guns, but all carbon rail guns. That's me.
Sick.
I joke that I started with the Rob Allen 120. I went through every brand in the world. Like I've used so many. I've had them, just borrowed them, used them, demoed them, whatever. And now I'm back to my Rob Allens. That's all I use. Man,
that's sick guns. Like, and the Rob Allen just gets better and better. Like, he doesn't sponsor the show or anything like that, but I've been using his gear for years.
They just do their job. That's it.
Yeah.
It simply does its job.
Yep. Yeah, and the new stuff's just as good, like they've got the pultrusion carbon barrels going and the roller heads are sick. Like he's just spent so long developing them. He didn't want to rush to market with something that was half-assed.
Everything he does is beautiful. Every shaft, everything. His belt reel to his reel to everything.
But like every spear gun company though, or every spearfishing company in general, they've had periods of things where things have been less than perfect. I think there were complaints about some of the early mechs and stuff like that, and
I remember there was a bad batch of shafts that went out. That everybody had a shaft that rusted. It all came like at the same time during the same year. It was weird. Yeah,
JBL sounds like a company like that too. Like I was chatting with someone the other day, and they said like new JBL was not the same as old JBL. Do you know much about that?
I don't know much about JBL at all. All I know is it was the tiniest gun in the dive shop, and it was the tiniest gun in the dive shop. I went there. I was like, I don't need a big gun. I just need that little 24-inch gun. You couldn't do anything with a 24-inch gun. It was a toy.
So you were a scout, and the scouting trip kind of was your sort of your
that was
entry.
The first one.
It was the gateway drug into the world of spearfishing.
That was it. Yeah. Before that, it was all fishing, and then it turned into spearfishing, and that's it.
It's a shame that scouts aren't doing too well these days. Did they have a spearfishing badge? Because that's pretty cool.
I don't think it was. I don't know if they have a spearfishing badge. I'm actually an Eagle Scout, so I took the scouts pretty far. But
nice.
That one trip, whatever, it was like, we had a really cool troop that did crazy things, and we'd go on, Bahama trips and Marquesas trips and just all over the country, and it was wild. And one of them, somebody handed me a pole spear, and I was like, wow, I'm really good at this. And I swam down like 30 feet. It was just natural.
So starting in the Scouts, like all those years ago, and now you're competing in world championships, you're regularly taking out the US national competitions and stuff. There's got to have been a lot of lessons learned in between
Guaranteed.
there and there.
Guaranteed.
What are some that stick out to you immediately?
Lessons. One of the things I think I did really well, like in my career, was I actively seeked out those lessons. Like I went out of my way to find the best guy and would nag that dude until he taught me whatever it was, and I was really, really good at that, no matter where I was in the world, whether that was like paying for a freediving class or hiring the right guy or biking to his house or whatever it was. Like I worked really, really hard at learning those lessons. And, but I got to say, one of the first ones that I really learned, Chad Palin, which I'm not sure if he's been on your show, but one of the Florida legends just told me to slow the hell down. And it was like, from then on, I've gotten slower and slower and slower to the point where I'm out there and I don't even move. People are like, what are you doing? I'm the slowest swimmer. I'm the slowest to go down, the slowest to go up. Everything I do is like a snail. And that definitely got to be one of the lessons that stuck with me forever.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that technique's going to come in pretty handy when we talk about deep reef hunting.
That's the key.
Let's get into that when we get there. I wanted to talk briefly about some of your competition experiences. You've attended some of the biggest events on the planet, really, in the world. Well, it's still spearfishing, isn't it? It's not a huge niche, is it? It's not like we're talking about
big fish, small pond type thing. Yeah.
But nevertheless, you've been to some of the, there's some super talented people in the sport, people that just, they're just freaks of nature, from a physiological point of view, from a hunting point of view, and they just think and nut out about spearfishing. Are you kind of like that as well? You're focusing
100%.
on every facet? Yep.
That's all I do. Yeah. Spearfishing is just completely my life. It's been kind of the only thing I've done for the last, 8 years now professionally. It's been it. Just trying to get to the level where I can compete with those European world level competitors that have been doing what I've been doing, but I'm 8 years in, they're 40 years in. I keep, one of the things I say about worlds, if I try really, really hard for the next 30 years, maybe I'll win one, if I keep doing what I'm doing now.
So the 2016 Worlds happened in Greece. It was one of the deepest spearfishing competitions that's ever been.
It was, yeah.
I don't think there was any divers that were not considered talented at that competition. You managed to place 12th out of 75. Tell us about your experience in the comp.
Well, that comp was pretty insane because it was my first world championship. But it was also I went in there with a massive advantage. To be young and to be able to and I spent 3 months scouting there. I did like 70 something days in the water before the World Championship.
Oh, wow.
So I had more days in the water there than anybody else. What I really lacked was like the tournament experience. I didn't know how to compete and how to do that as well as I knew how to like dive deep and shoot fish. So I kind of had some weaker points there for sure. But Worlds was so crazy because it was so freaking deep. And like showing up there and being able to hunt deeper than 40 meters, you were already in the top 20%. Like if you could make it to 40 meters and potentially shoot something, you were there. So like me and Justin did really well there, just being able to get there, like, you know, and then I had a few months advantage there of a lot of scouting, but it was definitely, I had that listed here as like one of the hardest things I ever did. Like it was deadly. Like I had a blackout there. I was bent multiple times. Yeah, I should have been in the chamber for sure. But mom is there.
During the comp or during the scouting?
I got bent 3 times during scouting and then 1 time during the competition. So like after 2 days of like hardcore diving, like I got out of I was like, it was like the last 20 minutes in the tournament. It was actually, I can tell that story if you want. It's kind of crazy, but dove 2 days in a row, you know, 50 meters all day long, 60 meters. And halfway through the second day, I stick my face out of the water and I can't see anything. Oh. And I get on the boat and I'm like, something's wrong with my eye, you know, and I felt like I had something in my eye that like I couldn't get out. And it was kind of like this weird prism thing, which then I talked to David Mullins later and he told me like, that's a big symptom of it is you get that, you know, prisms in your eye. And so anyways, I got out of the water and I everybody was looking at me like, you know, I was like, take me over here, take me over there. And like, I kept like, I didn't know what to do. I was like all kind of like flustered. And I got my buddy there. That's my safety. And I got the captain there that I've been, you know, training and staying with him for 3 months, you know, Fotis, like he was a man and he's like my dad. And everybody's kind of looking at me like, oh, are you okay? And so finally I jumped in the water in like a meter of water and like just snorkel. I was like, let's just go snorkel, look for mullet. Like at least I'm doing something. And got in the boat after that. And I said, I'm good. I want to do a couple more dives. And I went and I did one more. I did like one more at 55. Shot a fish, which is huge because I shot 4 or 5 fish in 2 days of tournament, you know, so like to shoot a fish that's legal is massive. And I did one more on that spot and I came up and I felt like my skin was falling off. Ooh. And didn't know what was going on. Immediately, like went back, called the judges and I had an oxygen tank. So I went back under on oxygen, spent the whole rest of the tournament, which was like another 10 or 15 minutes on oxygen, came up, ran in, gave my fish, and then went back out and jumped back on oxygen, went down. And that was the only way I escaped the chamber. Like I had an oxygen tank and every time I got bent, I would go down to 7 meters and breathe a tank of oxygen and avoided the chamber. But it was pretty sketchy. It was a pretty wild experience.
So 7 meters, you're nearly at 2 atmospheres. Is that a like the recommended deco sort of stop?
Yeah, somewhere between 5 and 7 meters is kind of like where we hang out, breathing pure O2 to kind of off gas all that nitrogen and hopefully avoid the chamber. You know, that was the whole thing. We had a lot of guys black out, a lot of guys go to the chamber during that competition. It was wild. So that's our big fear for the next one. Next one's going to be 2020. It would have been 2020, but now it's going to be 2021, Italy. So it's going to be the exact same thing. Really, really deep and variable weight diving. Just sketchy.
I want to talk a little bit about variable weight in a sec. The physiological mechanism that's making you have this prism in your eyesight, is it something on your optical nerve? Or do you have any, are there any thoughts about this?
It's just DCI. I don't know if it's type 1 or type 2, whatever they call it, but it's the neurological one. So it's basically just gas bubbles in your brain.
Wow.
Same kind of thing that makes you have a stroke. It's just weird things clogging up and screwing you up.
It just sounds awful.
And it's weird because everybody's got a different tolerance to it. So like, you know, no one really knows how many minutes you need to spend up. You know, like I was spending 18 minutes on the surface in between dives just to off gas that nitrogen. Yeah. Still getting decompression sickness. And it all has to do with like how much work you do. Like you have to pull up your own weight. So normally if you're diving super deep like that, you'd have somebody else pull up your weight. But in the tournament, you got to pull up your own weight. So now you're doing all this effort to pull up a weight from 200 feet after you just did a 200-foot dive and built up all that nitrogen. And that was the whole thing.
So exertion compounds it? That's what you're speculating?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's facts. They know that, yeah.
Okay. All right. So variable weights. we've gone straight into like a really technical area of super difficult diving that a very small percentage of our very small sport involves themselves in. However, I think it's an interesting aside. So describe for me variable weight diving.
Well, variable weight is basically just going down with a different amount of weight that you come up with. So, for example, I'll hold like 4 kilos in my hand and I'll go down to the bottom and I'll leave it there. I'll hunt, I'll do my thing, and then I'll swim back up without it. And then when I get to the surface, I'll pull it back up. And yes, it has its massive advantages for going deeper, obviously. But to me, by far, its biggest asset is safety. Because what happens now is instead of wearing, whatever you're wearing on your belt, you're wearing like 10% of that. So even if I were to black out coming up and be at, 20 meters, I'm going to float. So that happened a lot during the World Championship. If you black out, you're popping surface like a cork, instead of like, if I were to do that same constant weight dive to say 40 or 50 meters, I'm going to sink below 15, below 30 feet, below 10 meters. So if I don't make it there, I'm dead. Whereas theory is at least you'll be recovered and they can bring you back,
Wow. Well, that sounds like a scary tournament, and it sounds like
it is.
Italy's going to be similar.
Yeah, we were all stoked to kind of survive this last, 2016, and then they put it in Italy again, which is a blessing and a curse. I'm showing up again in the top 20% before starting. Before we get in the water, I'm already top 20%. Which is massive. I keep saying like, this is my one to win, this is my one to like go and do well and maybe retire from it or whatever. But like, this is the one.
Jesus.
So we'll see.
While you're diving deep, another issue would come up. And so I'm just going to read you a listener question. Sven says, Ryan Myers is awesome. Love all his safety stuff in his vids. He makes me have so much respect for him sharing that for others to watch and take on board. He says, is it possible to ask him if he's run into any issues with lung or trachea squeeze and what he does to avoid it? He says he's done a bunch of deep freediving, but interested to see how he has avoided this issue so far.
Yeah. Trachea squeezes and lung squeezes come from not adapting to depth, period. So the more that you go deep and the more internally compressible you are, the more flexible you are, the less issue you're going to have with that. So as I consider myself like a deep spearfisherman, I am a freediver as well. I've trained a lot with them. I've early on in my career, I kind of recognized that like, oh wow, like freediving is the fundamental to spearfishing. Let's go learn to freedive. And I took a lot of classes. I competed for a little bit just to learn. And what I found was like my body was so well already adapted to depth because of the 100-foot hunting. So if you go to 30 meters and you hunt and you're turning, you're fighting fish, you're looking at stuff, you're stretching yourself every one of those dives. So I might go out and I'll do 30 of those dives, and that's all stretching me out for those deeper dives, So that's kind of how I've avoided. I mean, it's definitely like, it's terrifying. Like I've seen it happen to a ton of people. You get the trachea squeeze and then it happens forever. Like I've seen guys that are really, really deep divers kind of ruin their whole diving forever by getting the trachea squeeze or lung squeeze and then continuing to get it again and again. And it's so hard for all of us watermen to stay out of the water. So you say like the only cure for it is to stay out for a month. Cool. Well, you stay out for a month and you go dive again and then you get it right away. Now what? You spend 2 months out, 3 months out, 4 months out, and it ends up like being that like thing that just keeps happening and it could never go away. So like it terrifies me. I'm definitely careful at depth. I mean, you'll see in like some of my really deep videos, I'll sit on the bottom. I won't like lay out flat, because you're laying out flat and you're stretching your neck up to shoot at something coming in, you're stretching. So it's all about being conscious of all those movements. If you grab a fish and you start fighting something down there, like you're in your danger zone. You got to like understand what causes that and then avoid all those things. Like deep diving you're not doing anything down there. I go to the bottom, I shoot a fish, I swim up. I'm not fighting stuff. I'm not doing anything weird.
So a lot of it's posture and exertion at depth, and that's one sort of thing. 100%
that, yeah. And that adaptation. So like as a deep spearfisherman, if you're always out there hunting, like we saw this with guys getting ready for Greece. If you're always out there hunting at 100 feet and then you go to Greece and you try to dive 150, 180, you're going to be good at it. Like you're going to be like, wow, this is not that hard because you've done so much at 100. If you've never been to 100 and then you go out and you try and do 150, like, yeah, you're going to be really, really tight. And that's just something that comes with time and practice, and you just get more flexible every single time. So I've been very fortunate to not have those issues. I mean, I had it one time, but it was just me being dumb, and otherwise it hasn't been an issue.
All right. So one thing I think, like, it's like maybe you get comfortable, like, or just take it down a couple of levels for the rest of us. So maybe like I'm comfortable 60-foot diver, right? But I've got good buddies. The water's clean. It's warm. I'm going to push it to 75 today, right? And get some of this adaptation going. Maybe I'm only going to do half a dozen dives to that depth first thing in the morning or whatever. What should I be doing in terms of posture? Like being very specific here on the bottom. Like instead of laying flat, what do we do?
Well, first of all, I think that's a pretty small gap. And if you're a really confident diver to your 60 feet, you're not going to have a problem in that 75 feet. You know, what it becomes, that bigger jump is like, you know, that 60 to 100, which we see a lot of times in clear water. You know, you get out here, the water's clear, it's flat, conditions are beautiful, and you push it to the 100, and then you do the same weird stuff that you get away with at 60, and all of a sudden you're squeezed. And it's that neck position is number one. It's being tense. And it's fighting a fish or turning weird. It's just all the weird things you could do down there, you know? And we see it a lot in freediving classes where like you go down to the bottom and you get to the bottom of the line, and instead of like grabbing and letting yourself just float and fall over to the bottom and keep sinking until you're vertical again and then pulling yourself back up, people try and do these big turns and they like flail around with their arms, and that's the type of stuff that dangers you.
Okay.
So it's all about small movements. That's everything. And which is the same exact thing that helps you spearfish. It's all the same, you know, big movements scare fish, small movements don't, you know?
So maybe like when you are diving a bit deeper, I think maybe unconsciously you're just feeling a little bit more underlying anxiety because you know you're out of your comfort zone, and that's causing you to tense up and make awkward movements, which contributes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, cool. What about in terms of, so you said you made a habit of nagging some of the best.
Oh yeah.
What other resources did you use to improve? Was it primarily people?
It was I guess it was people early. I mean, I guess if you want to talk like early days of like learning, like spearboard was huge for me. I remember like as like before I found like the spearfishing club, I was spearboard exclusively. And like I figured out that like every question you typed into Google, like led you back to spearboard. And then before you know it, I was a member on there, and I read a ton. I didn't post that much, but like I read a ton. And that was huge at the beginning. I mean, I don't think forums are a thing anymore really, but now it's all social media. But back then there was that. And then I joined Palm Beach Freedivers, which was the local spearfishing club. And that was huge. And that was like one of my things that like I would tell anybody, like, go join your local club, like find it wherever it is. You know, there's a ton of people there that can help you and teach you. Like I went from swimming from the beach, taking my little 14-foot John boat offshore, like just doing weird stuff, to like having a boat option every day of the week.
Yeah.
Every day of the week you wanted to go on a boat, here's $20 for fuel, you're on, you know?
Yeah, wow.
It was really a game changer for me.
Nice. Yeah, cool. I think forums kind of have been taken over a little bit, just to go back to that.
Yeah.
And social media has kind of taken over, but there's a couple of problems that I see with this situation. With forums, there were these nested threads that were around a specific topic, and you could see this conversation that might have stretched for 1 or 2 years about some sort of neat facet of spearfishing. That stayed there forever. In social media, you have that same conversation. That same conversation happens every 3 months. And it's just revisiting the same things over and over and over again.
And then the best guy doesn't want to talk about it because he's already said it 3 times.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. And the guy, the guy that's thought about it the most and had this conversation 25 times, they're kind of too fatigued to get involved in it. And then you end up with sort of some low-level advice, or maybe stuff that you don't quite agree with, but you just can't be bothered wading in. So, it's an issue. Is that a beer?
That is the beer.
Wow, well done.
That's a big wave. Kona Brewer, big wave.
You've podcasted before.
I have. The beer's key.
Yeah, nice, man. That's the way to do it. I think that's the way to edit too, which you must spend a lot of time doing.
We do. My girlfriend's in the bathroom right now editing.
Yeah, wow.
it's 4:30. I was like, you're not done. She went to the bathroom with the cat litter box and whatever. She just posted to Instagram that story. She was like, Ryan's on the Noobs Bureau. He's
sick.
He sent me to the bathroom to edit.
Thanks, Sarah, for putting us. Sam, isn't it? Sam?
Yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen her in a couple of your vids. Very cool. Yeah. She's a Spearo in her own right, eh?
She's actually one of the world champions. So her team won in Portugal last year, her women's team. So that's pretty wild.
I'll have to get her on the show too now.
There you go. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
All right, done. We'll lock that in. So the other issue with the forum social media thing that I'm noticing, and I want your comments on, is like back in the day in the forums, there was a lot of politics, and there was free speech was not a free, and I'm seeing the same thing in a lot of social media groups. People that introduce an idea that other people don't like, they're getting banned and they're getting shipped out, and like that happened in forums, and that's why some of them became less popular. I think.
I think the clubs too, and the same thing happened with the clubs. You know, you end up with like a guy you don't like, and we're just like, see you later. I'm not going anymore. You know, I don't have to come here.
It's I don't know. Sometimes I just look around and just I don't know. I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
that's one of the worst aspects of our human nature, I think, is just to tribalize. But okay, anyway, so you're not going to get involved in that. I try to draw you out there.
No.
The other thing about competitions, though, is the same thing, isn't it? It's a lot of it gets quite political, and a lot of people steer clear of these things because of that very fact.
I've had a really, really great experiences. You know, the majority of mine have all been wonderful, especially all my international ones. All my international ones have been some of the best events I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, right.
You know, the national ones are a little bit, you know, it could be some politics and some whatever weird stuff, but like I show up to win. I work harder, and that's it. Like I don't really get involved. I don't care. I'm there for one thing, and that's it. You know.
Mm-hmm. So. Talking about US local comps, I had an interview with Big Jake Lords this morning. He's a freshwater diver, and he told me you have to stop coming to the freshwater ones and winning it because they want the freshwater guys to win.
I only went to one, and it worked out. I just went a week earlier than anybody else and worked harder than anybody else. That was it.
Yeah, nice.
Well, there's no secret, you know. Especially like a lot of those tournaments, there's not so much skill. You know, it's 30-foot diving. It's how fast can you dive? How fast can you reload? How fast can your boat pick up your fish? You know, it's just practice it. It's not, you know, it's not like you got to dive to 100 feet. Like just dial it in and work really, really hard. And that's all we do. That's all I do. It's a very simple formula.
Yeah, righto. It's a lot of it's more strategy and planning rather than. A lot of strategy. Yeah, righto.
Yeah, it's all It's 100% strategy and planning. The spearfishing is like once you get to these tournaments, like everybody's the same. You're all phenomenal. You know, it's who worked harder, who strategized better. You know, who was there longer. That's it. Like I'm fortunate to have a lot of competition experience now. So like I kind of know what's going to happen. I know, you know, the expectations of what I think I'm going to shoot versus what I'm actually going to shoot. You know, I know what 70 people does to like a lake or a body of water, you know? So like I'm fortunate to have some of those advantages that a lot of people don't, but yeah, just work hard. That's it. Simple, you know?
I think you'll agree with me when I say that contractions suck. But what if I told you there was a way to relax and steadily push them back and to do so safely? Freediving for Spearfishers at howtofreedive.com will help you to extend your breath hold, understand your body better, and put you in a better position when you actually get to go out spearfishing. It's not a program or a course for noobs, as it's definitely something for more advanced spearos who've had some sort of diving under their belt and understand basic spearfishing safety. But it is perfect for spearos who want a guided program with videos, a clear process to follow, and a set goal. It's definitely got that. It's a 28-day program that you can stretch out a little bit longer if you haven't got the time, but it's this formulaic approach to get you to hold your breath in a dry static for 5 minutes. It's just a dry breath hold training that's actually achievable, because most of the time we start with dry training, and there are a few good apps out there as well. However, without sort of this process to guide us through, we get lost and we fall apart and the discipline goes away. Anyway, you can get started for free. Check it out at howtofreedive.com. If you do want to purchase it, use the code NoobSpearo, but you can do the first couple of days free. So check it out at howtofreedive.com. Again, use the code NoobSpearo if you decide to purchase. All right, let's move into memorable fish. Like, I think you've shot 4 or 5 fish since you started.
I have. I've shot
How do you, if you had to choose one story, one fish?
One story.
Just one. We can talk about more after this, but let's pick out one, like really special hunt. Doesn't even have to be a super special fish. It's more about the actual hunt and the experience for you.
I think one really, really memorable fish was I actually got it in Greece. I got it with Dimitri. You guys, I'm sure everybody knows him here, Dimitri Kolias.
Kolias, yeah.
Yep, owner of Deep. And he was kind of there training me in Greece, and he taught me a lot of stuff. And I was kind of learning the aguado and the espeto technique and kind of how to do them and when to do what. And he was there. It was actually me and him and David Mullins. And he was kind of like teaching us. And he was showing me basically like how to take a sloping rock and crawl down it diagonally. So basically you use like gravity to kind of like, pull yourself along, but also be like ready with your gun. So you're looking around every corner ready to fire. Like any second, like your gun is ready to fire. And that's kind of the European aguado method. Like, you're going to come around the corner and there's going to be a grouper and you have like a split second before he beats his tail and is gone. And it didn't work out almost ever for me, except for this one time. And I've got Dimitri on the boat, and it was my biggest dusky ever, and just came around the corner and there he was. And, I had that Blue Tech Raptor and just blasted him in the head and landed him. And it was the coolest. It was just a really cool, like start to Greece. Like that was my first real fish I got in Greece. And it was kind of like, whoa, like maybe I got a chance here. Maybe this is like a real possibility, and that was just really cool. That was a really cool fish.
Those guys there have highly refined their hunting techniques, and it's sometimes like,
they're so technical.
Yeah.
And they're so technical, and that's because they have to be. Like the hardest places in the world to hunt breed the best spearfishing, And so to me, any place I've been, you got Europe, all the Mediterranean and Hawaii, and they're the best. If you go out here and you shoot fish, like you're just really, really good. You can go out in Australia or Florida or any of these places and swim down 30 feet and a 50-pound fish can swim up to you and you can stick it and cool, but out here in the Med, anywhere else, if you shoot fish, you're really, really good.
All right, cool. Hey, we're kind of going to merge favorite species to hunt, or the favorite, hunting technique with our veterans vault, and I want to get into that. We're going to talk about deep reef spearfishing. It's a nice segue straight in from the Greek guys and the Med hunting. Let's start it off with like, what's one of the cleverest fish you've ever had to try and hunt?
Well, I guess the cleverest fish I think anywhere in the world would be the Dentex and the Mu. And I think the Dentex in Europe, obviously their snapper over there, is pretty freaking elusive. But their snapper's kind of cruising up and down the reef, so you can kind of hide and maybe it just swims past you. The Mu here in Hawaii, which is now what I'm hunting like every day, you can see them. Like they're right there. And we go out all the time and you can see them everywhere. And you go down and you hide behind a rock and like it just doesn't come near you. And they're freaking brilliant. They're super clever. And the worst part is they're always there. Like you see them every time you get in the water. You see, 8-pounders every time, which is like a trophy here. Every time you get in the water. But I've never shot an 8-pounder.
Wow.
And so that's pretty frustrating. And that's definitely, one of your questions. I haven't figured them out. I'm starting to. It's taken me a lot of years of coming to Hawaii and visiting and diving here, and I'm starting to like be able to get the small ones sometimes, but the bigger ones are just brilliant. So
I watched your last vid, and you guys have kind of found this area where there's a good aggregation of fish, and you were trying to put your friend onto their first Mu, and he had shot a fish and it had gone into a hole. Shaft was in it, and but you didn't get it straight out. Because you saw Mu in the distance, and then you sort of took like a dash and a long shot and lost it. Yeah, is that pretty common?
So that lunge I love that move, especially. So like I like to classify fish as kind of darters and swimmers. So you'll have like, say, your grouper who, like, if you lunge at that grouper, like he's going to flip that tail one time, he's going to be gone. Like they move so fast, so quickly. And then you've got some other fish that are only going to move at the same speed away from you. So like if you don't spook it and you get almost close enough and then you give that little lunge, that little 1-2 kick, you know, all of a sudden you're in range. And you might not be in range for like an easy shot, but you're in range for like a longer shot, you know, but you're comfortable. And that's kind of what I did there. And I do that a lot out here, where especially on the Mu, we're like, I'm almost there. I'll sit there. I'll wait. I'll look for a really good handhold for my left hand. I got my gun in my right hand. And then I'll launch with the left hand, and then I'll give myself like a little kick, and then you're there. You're within range. Sometimes, theoretically. Doesn't always work. Didn't work that time.
It was still cool to see, and I have seen you do it a few times actually. So what about on jobfish? Does it work on them as well?
It'll definitely work on jobfish as well. They're the same kind of fish. I'd classify them as like a swimmer. Like they're not just going to beat their tail one time and poof, be gone. But more importantly with the jobfish, I'm usually on the bottom. And if you can wait out their passes, a lot of times they'll come in close for a pass. And most of the time I'll just wait for their passes. I mean, I'll do my lunge there sometimes, but more likely I'm really focusing on not using any energy and settling in for a long dive. Like I'll wait you out. You know, you can do, how many passes can you do before you come close enough that it's the pass that I want, you know?
So there's a fair bit of freediving fitness is definitely required for this. How do you recommend guys? It's such a tough thing. Like to improve beyond a certain level within a short time frame, it just doesn't seem very realistic. How do you coach guys to get better at freediving?
I don't know. if I knew, I would tell you. Honestly, it's hard. It's practice. Everybody asks me like, how do you hold your breath for so long? How do you do this? Well, go 5 days a week for 5 years, you know, you'll get better. You know, it's, the freediving classes are amazing. And like that initial jump to get to like, say, touch and goes at 40 meters and hunting at, you know, 80 feet, is easy. Anybody can do that in like 2 weeks. You know, you can come, show up, do that. And then with some hunting skills, you know, you can, like, I just took a guy I've been diving with for 2 weeks, a good friend. And, he progressed so fast. He had the freediving down. He was willing to learn, and immediately he was hiding on the bottom. He was doing everything right. And like he shot a massive uku at the end. Like I'm getting ready to post that video. And I was shocked. I was like, I've never seen anybody progress this fast in 2 weeks, but he did it all right. He dove 2 weeks in a row every single day with me. He took Kurt Chambers' class before that. He had all the practice, all the experience, you know, to then boost that next level. And unfortunately, it's practice. Like you guys got to dive. That's it. Everybody asks me how to get better. How do I get so good at freediving? I go freediving. That's it. You know, unfortunately, I'm not the pool guy. I don't have all the pool exercises. I don't have all the fitness routines or the diet or any of that kind of stuff. Like I'm just very fortunate in that I haven't missed a week in, you know, 8 years. I dive 3 to 5 times a week, you know, every week forever. So that's kind of been my thing. I wish I had more secrets for everybody.
It's all good.
You know?
It's all good. It's an answer into itself. It's dedication and hard work over a sustained period. It's persistence.
To get to that next level, you know, like I said, where most people don't want to go or need to go. You know, what you need to be, if you can do your touch and goes at 40 meters and you can hunt in that 80-foot class real confident, like you feel real comfy in 80 feet when you got your good buddy watching you can do that for the rest of your life and shoot a ton of wonderful fish. I mean, the times that I shoot fish past 80 feet are not that often. You know, I'll go out and I'll shoot most of my fish below 80 feet. But that zone right there, that, you know, 70 to 90 is kind of like where the magic starts to happen. And if you're real comfy right there, you can really do a lot anywhere you are.
Yeah, nice. All right, a little bit of fan love here. Todd says, Ryan Myers is a legend. I have more of a comment than a question. That opening sequence in his giant trevally, sorry, I'm talking Australian here. Video where they make the sausage was absolutely gorgeous. That is an underwater videographer's dream. So, bit of fan love there. Anthony Kiggs says, would be cool to hear Ryan talk through some stalking / coaxing techniques that he uses on big Uku and Mu. So we were talking about the lunge. What about coaxing, getting them in?
Less is more, always. Less is more. So everybody, it's kind of common knowledge now, dusting, grunting, strumming your bands, waving your little fish fingers, whatever everybody does. But like, I promise you, less is more. Once that fish knows you're there, do less. Tucking down closer to the bottom, being smaller, moving less will do more to entice like a wary fish in than all of the dusting or grunting or anything. So a lot of times that dusting and grunting is at the very beginning of my dive when I don't see any fish and I want something to know I'm there from far away. And then once it's there and it knows I'm something, it doesn't know whether I'm food or I'm a predator or what, but the more subtle I am, the faster he will come in closer. So,
okay, nice. So once they're coming in, with grunting, like it sounds very unspecific. Could you replicate the sounds that you might try out to draw one of these fish in?
Something like that. Just a couple grunts. I don't go crazy with it. I like to get to the bottom. I like to be settled in the bottom, and then I will grunt and I will dust. And the theory there is they didn't see you come down at the bottom. You were quiet the whole way. Mm-hmm. Now you're on the bottom. They don't know what you are. You're something down there. You're something in distress. Then they hear you and they come over and they don't really know what they're looking at, what it is, and they get close enough for that shot.
Okay, cool. So you're using some of these bigger, more visual, louder techniques when the fish is farther away,
guaranteed.
And then you're in some sort of rest in a bed. You're hiding part of yourself, or
hiding is less. I think hiding is less required depending on where you are in the world. Like, and what I mean by hiding is like just lay against a rock. Don't lay, in the sand. But at the same time, like I do that a lot too, depending on where I am. Like Hawaii is the fish are brilliant. You gotta tuck in. But like for 99% of the places in the world, like if I were to dive anywhere in Australia, I would just go down to the bottom and lay there. That's it. Go down to the bottom, do my dusting, do my grunting, wait. And as long as you're not 3 feet off the bottom, hovering around with 99% of hunters out there are doing right now, you're way ahead. You're a mile ahead, So to the bottom, staying as slow and calm as you can. Like if you watch the videos, you can see my head and the GoPro's on it. So there's no faking it. You can see the speed which my head moves, which most people's head moves. We all see those videos all the time where the guys are on the bottom and that GoPro's whipping back and forth, and that's just all of your movements should be like that. Should be super slow motion.
Okay, cool. With competition hunting versus this deep reef stuff that we're discussing, they seem to be at odds sometimes in terms of, I think a lot of the fish that you are chasing in tournaments don't necessarily require this sort of high degree of skill and sustained bottom time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that debate in every single tournament. Like, do I do twice as many dives to 20 meters or do I do half as many dives to, 30 meters, 40 meters? Because obviously it takes more time. You need more surface interval, takes more effort. And that debate is completely up in the air depending on where you are. Like I went to Portugal that was the last World Championship, and there were tons of fish in 2 meters of water, tons. But I can't hunt in 2 meters with the swell moving back and forth. I went out to 20, 25, 30, and I lost. I should have been in 2 meters. We all should have. So it depends on the zone, which is why I love Greece and why I love Italy, because there's no debate. Just go deep. That's it. Deeper you go, the more fish you'll see. Simple. But yeah, as far as like most of your, like, I say that too. Like if I want to fill a cooler with fish, I don't go to 40 meters. I go to 80 feet. I go to 25 meters, 20 meters. If I want to go out there and like have a good time and like have fun and be relaxed and shoot something really cool, maybe I'll go out to 40 meters, but it's not the way I fill a cooler or get dinner,
Nice. Cool, man. I'm kind of happy with this veteran's fault. I did want to ask if you had any more parting advice, comments for guys wanting to do deep reef hunting, or have we missed anything?
I would just say go as slow as you can. Make sure you're not overweighted. I think the deeper I go, the less weight I carry for sure. And just slow down with everything. I'm in no real rush to go. I'm in no rush from the entire dive. I will spend 6 minutes, 8 minutes in between dives on the surface. I will take my jolly old time going down. I will sit down there and relax as much as possible, and I'll take my jolly old time coming up. And if you can do that, that's going to get you deeper always. And if you can set up like the logistics of your diving in a way that you're not using any effort on the surface and every dive builds into the next one, you're going to be more comfortable hunting deeper. So for example, if you go out and you swim way up current, like here in Hawaii, we're always fighting the current. We're always on shore dives. So if you go way up current and then you spend, your first dive's going to suck, and your third, and they're, as they go and you drift down current, they're going to get better and better as you get more relaxed. Like each one, when you get to the surface, don't talk, you're not laughing, you're not talking about what you saw. It's just, you're preparing for your next dive. And each one will get better and better. And that's it. It's all slow. Everything about it is slow. And
I quite often help my dive buddies relax just by grabbing their bum cheek and giving it a gentle squeeze. Is that something you guys do in Hawaii as well?
We don't do that here. That sounds like a European technique.
No, it's my own unique creation, I think. But definitely, I just watch the stress go out of my dive buddy's shoulders whenever I do that.
There you go.
It's nothing like having a big hairy man grab your bum cheek.
Yeah.
A couple of the boys asked kind of related questions to what you were talking about. Kurt said he was keen to hear sort of like your setup and your mindset for each dive, and Danny said, maybe ask you about your relaxation techniques, but it sounds like we've kind of just covered that off. So, you might swim up currents to say 400 or 500 yards, and then, your first dive's maybe more of a scouting dive. It's not going to be sustained bottom time, and then as you sort of just let the current carry you down, and you just spend more time consciously relaxing on the surface.
Those relaxation techniques carry over to your boat too. Like we do a lot of this in Florida, like where you get one dive, like the current's ripping, you'll set up way in front and you'll do all of your diaphragm breathing, that really slow exhales. You'll get one dive and you come back up and do it again. Like if you were to, like as a kid, we would try to anchor on that rack and try to hold on to the back and try and swim down and swim back to the boat and do all this stuff. And it was way more effort than just to have a boat driver and just take turns, go in front of it. And that's the same when you get on the boat. When you get on the boat real easy. Don't talk to each other. I leave my mask on. Like everything is quiet, calm. Don't talk to me. Don't, we're not joking. Like, just, I'm getting ready for my next dive. As soon as your last dive ends, like I'm prepping for my next one. So that's just another thing that kind of carries over to all of your deep diving.
Cheeky question, but something that I've started to experience a little bit. What do you do when you dive with people that maybe take it a bit less seriously than you do, and they just they like, I don't know, they don't stick to you, like you like buddies to. They're not there when you come up sometimes, or they just joke around. Like when they're boaty, they don't seem to really pay too much attention about getting you on the right drift line. They're just a bit casual about safety, and they say, "Oh, we're more about fun than." How do you deal with that?
I really consider myself still alive because I have two modes. Like I have the mode where I know Justin Lee is above me watching me. I know my girlfriend Sam is above me watching me. I know I can do that 3-minute dive if I want to. And then I have that mode where it's just kind of the fact of life where I'm often the best person there. And when I'm diving with someone who doesn't give me that same confidence, I'm just diving completely differently. I'm not going to take any of those longer risks. I'm doing, my bottom times will cut, a minute off of them. And I think that's kind of, I know we all say all the time, don't dive alone. But the fact of the matter is people dive alone every single day, all over the world. Everybody does.
Yeah.
And if you can get yourself into a mode where you're alone, you're in charge of your own life, then I feel everybody will have a lot less problems, I know what I can do when Justin's above me and Sam's above me, and I cut that significantly down and not fighting any fish from this. There's just basic things that are going to black you out. It's just you're going to black out from.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that everybody should have, because especially somebody like me who travels all around the world and dives with different buddies every single day. I'm very often in a situation where I'm like, oh, nobody's watching me, and it's just the way it is. I don't have like my same core group of 4 guys that I dive with every single day every single time on my boat, or whatever it is. I'm always with different guys. And I think everybody should kind of develop that mode. Like, you don't need to necessarily not dive, but you need to be able to like do it responsibly and significantly cut down on what you might do with the proper buddy.
Have you had like, it's a rude question. Have you had much experience with shallow water blackout?
I've personally saved 21. So
you've saved 21 people in a blackout situation.
I personally saved 21. I've seen a lot more, but I've been like the primary safety buddy, whatever. I've been the one that rescued you 21 times.
Holy shit.
So it's not uncommon in my form of diving. And like, I'm kind of also known to like push people a little bit. Like I like to take guys and we go out and like, hey, we're diving 80 feet today or 90 feet. And like, you can push it, buddy, like whoever you are, like I promise you the water's clear. I can see you. There's no current. Like, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to be right here. Like, push it a little bit. Like, because the blackout itself is completely harmless as long as somebody's there to rescue you, And
some people say like after you black out once, you become more susceptible to it for a period of time. Is that true in your experience?
I don't know. And to me, like logically, I would say, like the human brain, like, okay, like Ryan was doing something dumb and we wanted to save him. So we made him black out and then he lived. So, okay, that works. We do that again, and I don't know. Like I don't want to have a bunch of blackouts. I know that the freedivers are kind of, the competitive freedivers, they have them all the time. It's no big deal. Like, I don't know whether it gets more conditioned or not, but I don't want to have it. I know that when I blacked out in Greece, it knocked like 30, 40 seconds off my dive time for like years. Like it never came back. Like it was years before I saw 33 minutes just because I was afraid. Like mentally, I was just afraid.
Yeah,
and I know that if as like a young diver, like if I would have blacked out at, 16, 18 and somebody would have saved me, I guarantee I would have been a whole lot safer than I was throughout all those, 5-8 years of like kind of recklessly diving wherever with whoever, thinking you're kind of invincible. So I think to the young people, like I think it's massively valuable. Like you're not trying to make a habit of it, but like to go out in a freediving class or to go out spearfishing with me as like a, 18-year-old kid and black out and then be like, whoa, like, I'm like, dude, you could have died if you're with your buddy and he wasn't paying attention. Like you're dead, I've had a lot of dads like thank me and be like, wow, like that was, he knows now, he knows that, you could actually die. So.
Yeah. Well, other people have talked about like that, that maturity progress as a process as a Spearo. It's like, you start off and you're nervous and maybe you've listened to some stories about blackouts and you're conscious about it. So you do all the right things and then, you spearfish for 12, 18 months, 2 years and your confidence gets up and you do start to get better, but not a whole lot better. But then you start to really push it. And that's when a lot of guys seem to come unstuck.
The same group always that dies. It's the same group. And I have a ton of those friends that like maybe I taught them or maybe I bumped into that or whatever. And I'm like, dude, like you're at the most dangerous phase right now. Just getting good. You're getting down to 100 feet. You're shooting fish. And all it takes is one mistake. One swam against the current. I was a little more tired than I usually was. I drank the night before or whatever. And, you're dead. So it's pretty serious. It's hard to instill that like on an 18-year-old. Like I never got that. I know everybody told me, I was like the deepest guy for a long time and everybody's, oh, you better care for it. I'm going to die. And I was like, whatever, I'm not going to die,
Yeah.
So I was like that kid to the T.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, it's such a serious issue, like in terms of just how many people have died,
Hawaii's crazy. Hawaii's like, we lost like 4 in 2 months, Like it's very, spearfishing is so big here and the fish are so deep and so smart and the water's so clear and warm and it's so easy to go deep without knowing anything that like, it was like 4 guys in 2 months earlier this year.
This episode of the Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you by the world's greatest spearfishing magazine, Spearing Magazine. There are news and reviews for the latest spearfishing equipment and gadgets inside. There's practical how-to and DIY type articles. There's spearing adventures from crazy noobers like you from all over the world. And it's a magazine that you can pick up or you can look at, and if you've got the digital subscription, you can flick through and let it inspire your next spearfishing adventure, even if you're having a dry run. Keep the stoke alive. Check it out at spearingmagazine.com. If you're away from the good old USA though, check out the international subscription. That's at spearingmagazine.com. Simple, accurate, deadly. Use the code NOOB, N-O-O-B, and save $30 on any spear gun for a limited time only. Go to killshotspearguns.com, check them out for yourself. Handmade in the Florida Keys by Ed Martin. Use the code NOOB, N-O-O-B, or head into the shop and say, "Crikey, mate." And apparently Ed will hook you up with a $30 discount on any timber spear gun. Get your hands on one. killshotspearguns.com. Doug asks a question. He says, can you ask Ryan why he uses a neck weight in some of his dives, and does he recommend it for an intermediate diver in cold water as well?
So I use a neck weight in every single one of my dives since I first got a neck weight 6 years ago when I moved to Hawaii. I found it in the chick I was staying with. I was staying in this lady's garage, staying in this lady's house, and I found it in her garage, and I kept it and I put it on my neck, and it's been with me every dive since. The only piece of gear that's carried over through everything. But I'm a big fan of it for a couple of reasons. It takes a couple pounds off my weight, off my belt, and it helps me go vertical straight up and down. You know, sometimes you're out diving with people and you can see them kind of at an angle going down and like doing weird stuff. And you know, so like I know that if I'm fully relaxed, that I'm pulling from my head. Like my head is pulling me down to the bottom and that's how I act like when I dive. I'm not pushing with my feet down to the bottom. I'm just like letting my head pull me down to the bottom. So I don't necessarily recommend it for one reason, and that's that you can't drop it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to wear a neck weight, make sure it's a small percentage of your weight, because the 2 times that I've had to drop my weight belt, I wish I could have dropped my neck weight. You know, it was like, shit, do I bring my hand up and try and grapple at the clasp, or do I just keep swimming up? You know? So it's definitely an advanced piece of gear, and definitely something that, like, if you're going to do it, small percentage of your weight. So,
like, he's in cold water, so I'd imagine he might be using, say, 12 pounds. Yeah. Maybe he's got 12, 14 pounds. How much should he consider using on the neck if he was? All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. And in terms of the clips, like, just about every neck weight I've ever seen is homemade. Normally homemade
bicycle clip with like a stupid little buckle on it. That's nothing. Yeah, little plastic buckle.
Yeah, like off a school bag or something like that, the plastic clip. Yeah,
exactly.
So what should you tell or show your buddies, just like how it sort of clips together? I mean, is there a way to make it visual so people can unclip it if they have to?
I don't think anybody can unclip it for you. I think if someone's got a hold of you, it's such a negligible amount of weight that they're taking you to the surface, or they're already on the surface with you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I've dropped my belt. I dropped my belt one time at like 42 meters. So I broke a fin, and I damn sure wish I could have dropped my 2 pounds on my neck, but I decided that just keep swimming up with one fin is easier than losing your momentum with reaching up with a hand, you know? So again, it's an advanced, something I picked up from the freediving world. Yeah. I picked it up there. I don't think it's going to help you or hurt you that much. It's not I don't think it's a significant part of my diving, you know? I like it. I keep it, but I don't know if I would do it myself now if I hadn't already been doing it for so long, you know?
All right. Fair enough, man. Let's segue away from this a little bit. I want to talk about your YouTube channel, which I'm just looking up now. You've got 26,000 subscribers. That's a substantial YouTube channel, and you're still continuing to grow it. I'd love to chat a little bit about how you've grown a YouTube channel. What's your... Oh, that's you coming over. What's up, guys? Ryan Myers.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Ryan Myers here.
What's up, guys? It's one of your go-tos, right. Isn't it? It's yeah. What's up, guys?
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode. Yeah, I love it.
Ryan Myers Expedition. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's good energy, man. It's good energy. how have you grown your channel so far? What are the strategies you employ to do it? And then we'll talk a little bit about the videos themselves.
We offer value. That's it. I did a ton of research on YouTube beforehand, before we started. I knew it was a platform I really wanted to be on. And we teach people spearfishing. I mean, you can watch our video, you can be entertained and also learn something. And it's not like there's channels out there you can learn stuff from, but they're not fun, and we've kind of found that good balance between the two. And I think that's huge. I think there's a lot of these secrets. Like I've taught spearfishing. I've guided trips for the last, 7-8 years. That's been my job. And basically I just took all of that value that I usually charge a lot for every day, and we'll put it on there and we'll give it to you for free.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
It's been really cool to see kind of the community respond to it really well. And it grow, because that's all we're doing now. Like we're done with everything else. No more classes, no more guided trips. Like YouTube is it. So we're doubling down, and that's it.
You're not running courses or trips at all anymore?
I'm gonna hope not.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I've survived for like the last 7-8 years. But everybody asks like what do you want to do, Ryan? I'm like, well, I just want to go spearfishing.
Yeah, nice.
And obviously that's hard to make a living and survive and whatever. But YouTube has really been like the platform to make that a reality. And I think that's been really cool. I mean, people have asked me for years, like, oh, Ryan, how do I make a living in spearfishing? I'm like, go to college and hire somebody to take you spearfishing. Go to college, get a real job, make some money, and then hire somebody to take you spearfishing. Like, don't go think you're going to spearfish for money, because it's impossible.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back and like respond to all those kids and tell them like, go start a YouTube channel, because that's the only real, to me, like possibility of making a living from spearfishing. So it's been really cool.
Teaching classes as a freedive instructor, like a lot of people already bitch about the price of a freediving course, and it's like, like most of the guys that are freediving instructors, they've had to pass some pretty stringent requirements that you actually need to have put a decent amount of work in just to learn. And then there's the knowledge and there's the formula to teaching a course. There's a lot of work involved, and you're teaching small classes, and you can't really scale those efforts. And
no, it's very hard, and it's an awful business model. Like it's just it's unscalable completely. You're just always scheduling people for your next paycheck, and it's pain in the butt. So I mean, 21st century, everything's online. Let's do it there.
Yeah, so, nice, man.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a huge blessing. Like we're so excited. It's a lot of work, especially at the beginning. We used to put 2 weeks into an edit. Like one of those videos would take us 2 weeks to make, and now we do them in a day. Like I'll film a day and we'll edit a day and it's done.
Yeah, nice, man.
So it's so that you were asking about advice for all the channels out there that are trying to grow. I would make as many as possible. And the reason for that is because no one's going to watch them at the beginning anyways. So nobody watches them. Don't care about it. Just make them, because every one that you make, you'll learn. And it's not about like you getting more views or more subscribers. It's about you yourself learning how to make the videos. You'll learn how to talk on camera. You'll learn how to do the voiceovers. You'll learn how to, film underwater, which is a whole thing in itself. Like you'll just learn faster the more you make. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna play this. Can you let me know if you can hear this?
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Ryan Meyer's Expedition.
Could you hear that?
Yeah. Got it. A little bit. That's fine. I recognize that anywhere.
Yeah. No, it's very distinctive, man, and your tone's very warm, and it's very motivating as well. So keep doing what you're doing with it.
Thanks.
Where to from here with the YouTube channel? What are you editing on?
We're editing on Premiere. We're on Premiere. I build the timeline and the story and everything, and then I do the voiceover and I give it to my girlfriend Sam, and she does the fancy stuff and the music and the transitions and all that kind of stuff. But like,
nice.
I think what's really cool for people to know is like we got 2 GoPros. That's it. That's what we use. We've got other fancy proper cameras, and they never leave the house. Anybody can do this with even our editing. Our editing is nothing fancy. It's not crazy, beautiful transitions. It's not, there's nothing crazy going on. It's just pure like value.
Storytelling.
And there's so many people out there that do the coolest stuff in the world. I mean, tons of people. Like you go out and you're like, oh man, if I had a YouTube channel, well, just film it. It's not, you don't have to make it like this whole production. Just go out, film what you did, put it online, and you might be surprised. I mean, it could be what you do. So
yeah, cool. What about recording sound? Like you narrate a lot of your videos. What are you recording into?
I've got a little bitty Rode Video Micro or whatever, $100 or something. I plug it into my GoPro. I stick my GoPro behind my laptop. I watch my video and I talk about my video, and that's it.
Yeah, nice.
Then I go back and I cut out the video and I put the music. I put the audio below it. I cut out all the dumb stuff I say, and that's it. It's done. Like our channel is the most basic. Uses the most basic technology. I mean, like I said, we got two GoPro 7 Blacks. That's what we use. That's it. Anybody can do this.
I've got the same camera, but I like when I go out spearfishing, I'll be honest, I've got the camera on my head. I quite like if I don't forget to turn it on, I pretty soon get the shits with it, or my battery goes flat.
Yeah.
Or like, and I'm just like, I just like to do one thing at a time. I'm a hardcore monotasker. Did you experience that when you started? I mean, or did it?
So what's really kind of unique and like what filming underwater and spearfishing is really, really hard. Like if whatever you think you got, like you got 50%, like you're really good at it, you got 70%, you know? So I take two GoPros. I have one on my head. I have one shoved in my wetsuit, and I make sure they're cleared. The chips are cleared. The batteries are fully charged, and I film every dive. And I film every single dive I go down, every single dive I come up, I turn it off. And when that GoPro dies, I'll switch to my other one. And half the time I swim out there and one screws up and glitches and is dead or something, you know, and then you have two. And luckily, like I filmed for Instagram for a lot of years. So luckily I have kind of that background in filming spearfishing, which is hard. Like it's hard. All my friends here are trying to start YouTube channels and do it. And I'm like, just do it. And then every time the GoPro's dead, the chip is full, you know, the thing gets flooded, like it's something. Yeah. And it took us a lot of practice to be able to do both, to the point where like, I don't even think about the camera anymore. Like it's just part of my breathe up. Every time I go, I click the camera, I dive down, I come back up, I click it off. That's it.
I went to New Zealand for 3 days to shoot a huge yellowtail kingfish and in March, and I shot a 27.5 kilo one or so, and it was cool. It was for me. It was a super special fish. But you know they've shot the world records there, which was beyond 50. So it was
3 kings.
Yeah. So it was by no means a special fish, like in terms of that place. But for me, it was super cool. I filled up a 64 gig memory card with like 2.7K, 50 frames a second. Yeah. And then as I pulled the card out, I snapped it with my finger and lost all the footage.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt really good. Have you done anything like that?
I am so fortunate to have lost like nothing of value digitally. Like everybody tells me that. They're like, I come like every time I film something, like I put it on my hard drive and I wipe the chip. And everybody around me is like, "Duh, you got to have backups of this and backups of this," and like, you know, whatever. And I'm very fortunate to have I can't think of anything significant that I've lost. And like I said, I'm sure it's only a matter of time. I just took some hard drives the other day to a guy to fix them all because they were broken. But if you pay for it, usually they can fix them. You know, the hard drive, digital glitch, whatever the whole thing is. I don't know. I'm not a computer guy.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. It's amazing. I do the YouTube thing, but like me and the computer like hate each other. Like it's bad. So.
Well, I shared my funniest thing. Well, you found it funny. I found it torturous. For you, what's one of the funniest things you've experienced out spearing?
I don't have a funniest thing. Like I've been thinking about that one all day. Like, I'm asking Sam. I'm like, Sam, I don't know. I don't know. Funniest thing? I'm sorry to disappoint you.
You haven't shit yourself or?
No. I mean, we have a genuine good time on the boat all the time. I mean, there's nothing like hanging with the boys on the boat and like everybody screwing with each other and whatever. And it's a blast, but it's, you know, I can't, I'm stumped. I was stumped on that one.
No pranksters in the crew?
No. I mean, I dive with people. The one thing Sam said was the Europeans and being naked. And that is it. Like these guys, like, I don't know how you guys are in Australia, but like Americans you're kind of funny. Like we change under our towels and whatever, And we go over to Europe and we're in these tiny little inflatable boats with like 5 guys, and they will like get naked and then start looking for their dive gear. Like be like climbing all over each other, and then they use like the pissettes, like the external catheters, and like they'll literally like help each other put them on. Help me, and they're like all like it's just that was kind of weird. I don't know if that's funny
that's a cultural thing
for sure. Yeah, they're like, "What? Are you gay? You can't be naked? There's just guys." And I'm like, I don't know.
I've started like at the end of my dive now when I'm not in too cold of water. At the end of the day, I'll take my suit off and jump in some jocks, like straight into the sea, and wash my suit off and just get all the just to get off all the piss. But that's generally about as far as I'm happy rocking it. This stuff. But yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, some dudes just love it though. So I don't know.
The Europeans are all the same. It's all over there.
Yeah, right. Oh, hey, one of the other funny things I remember you butchering some like Hawaiian names for fish on a video with Justin one day.
Always.
Like it was like you called it Menapachi, I think, or something.
Menapachi, yeah. The Hawaiian names are so hard. I don't know.
Yeah. But you sound like real cool. You're like, oh, and there's this Uku and Mu, and I'm just like, oh wow, he's like there's Hawaiian names for every different trevally as well. I'm just like, oh.
Oh, for sure, every fish, and then it's you got it wrong. That's the Japanese name, not the Hawaiian name. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know this?
Yeah. Yeah, we butcher it over here. Like some people will tell you off. Like we'll call them a Mu, and then they're like, that's not a Mu. That's what Hawaiians say. It's a large eye sea bream or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, well, whatever. I remember it as a Mu, just probably because of all the bloody videos I've seen online. What about your dive bag? From head to toe, what's a normal day at spearfishing like for you? So you got the Rob Allen spear gun, roller gun?
I got a roller gun of some kind. I use a lot of different ones. The Aim Right, the Pathos, the Rob Allen. Big fan of roller spear guns though.
Okay.
And cotton socks, guaranteed for sure. I don't like any kind of neoprene weird socks. I got my socks from Ross or wherever, Walmart. Cotton socks, disposable. Regular, I got a Cressy Nano with the clear snorkel. Whatever kind of wetsuit I'm using at the time, just open cell, both sides, open cell.
Why a clear snorkel?
Because, so it's kind of hilarious. I was like a little shit as a kid, and everybody put like the yellow tape on their snorkel and, so the boat can see them or whatever. And I was like, screw you guys, I'm getting a clear snorkel. So I got a clear snorkel, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and never went back. I was like, I like the snorkel. This is what I order every time. I get the same Omer Zoom clear snorkel. And the dive shop literally, Florida Freedivers literally sells out of them. It's like, everybody comes in here and asks for like Ryan's clear snorkel. And I'm like, this was like a joke I did with like, this is like a joke with some of the freedive instructors that are all like, super uber safety, this and that. And I'm like, what? So
you should
that was pretty funny. But,
it'd be cool to capture like a picture of someone vomiting into one of those. Like, can you actually see everything in the snorkel?
You're right. Well, mine gets so rotten that they're like black anyways. So
that sounds like a good video thumbnail for YouTube too. By the way, you can steal my idea.
There you go. So we got cotton socks for sure, Salvamar or some kind of Dyneema glove. So like a good Dyneema thin glove, I'm a big fan of. Regular wetsuit, some kind of carbon fins. I'm always flopping around carbon fins.
What's your preference? Have you got a brand preference or softs? Like what are you doing?
I like soft anything. I like super soft anything. All the European style of big angle soft. I'm getting some Setmas in the mail any day now. I think those are the best things I've used recently. But I've got a pair of Moanas I use sometimes. I got a pair of the Florida Freediver, which are just the XT stuff. All the just soft carbon fins for sure.
Okay. Yep.
And baby shampoo. Baby shampoo is the key to life. All diving. It's a secret.
So you, just for your mask, or is it? Have you got another application?
Mask, wetsuit, shower after. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
One product does your mask, does your wetsuit, and showers after.
Ooh, killer. So you're buying it by the liter or the gallon?
A lot. I buy a lot.
All right.
Yeah. All right, no one else ever brings any when they dive with me because they know that I'll turn around. I won't show up if I don't have a joke that like I'll dive all day if I forget my fins, but like if I forget the baby shampoo, like I'm sitting on the boat and driving.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. We'll wrap up with Spearo Q&A, which is like a fast-paced round of questions. If you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
I might join the club earlier. I think a spearfishing club like really progressed me super fast compared to like, you get like 3-4 years of kind of stagnant, like nothing. And then you've got like, 6 months in a club that like really boosted you. So I would say that I'd say definitely start off in a club earlier.
Nice. All right. Here's a loaded question. Who is the best person to go spearfishing with and why?
I have 2 answers. I have Justin Lee and I have whoever's available. Because
what about Sam? What about Sam?
Sam is my favorite to go diving with. I dive more with Sam. She's jumping up and down right now. I dive more with Sam than anybody else in the world. That's for sure.
Okay, cool.
But as far as like your hardcore days, your hardcore days of diving, Justin's pretty awesome because we do not care. We go out. There's no expectations. We're both pros. There's no worries in the world. We both point out the fish to the other guy all day long. We don't care about shooting it ourselves. It's easy. But yeah, whoever's available is key. You dive 4 or 5 days a week. You just go with whoever can.
Okay, cool. 2 more. What is the spearfishing destination you would most like to go to?
Western Africa, for sure. Yeah.
Any part in particular?
All that. I'd like to dive that whole like Angola, like that whole coast right there. That whole coast. I've seen a lot of stuff out of there. It's like big reef stuff, which is my zone. Big reef fish. So.
And pirates too.
Yeah, some pirates involved.
Last question. Could you describe what the spearfishing experience means to you in 1 sentence?
No.
Tough, you have to.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just the freedom of being down there and everything else, kind of melting away is special. You don't get that anywhere else in everyday life.
Nice. It is really hard to boil it all down into a neat little sentence, I think, because sometimes it means so much, It's like, I don't want to give you an elevator pitch kind of thing. Yeah, so I get it. Yeah. All good. Where can people come and find you, Ryan?
YouTube is best. I got Instagram too. We do that. But honestly, if you want to see everything, it's on YouTube. So it's just that's been our focus, and that's where we're going, and that's everything's going to be on there. But we got a website too, RyanMyersExpeditions.com. Instagram is Ryan Myers Expeditions, and YouTube is Ryan Myers. Cool.
I'm going to link all that up today in today's show notes at noobspearo.com/Ryan. And people can come and connect with you and say hello. And I'm sure your interview is going to be super popular, Ryan. You're a cool guy, great energy, and I've loved chatting with you, man. And we'll have to catch up again sometime.
Thank you so much. I had a blast.
Cool. Huge deep reef hunting section there with Ryan Myers. Jeepers, he lived up to expectations. What a fantastic way to close out the Noob Spearo podcast for 2020. Super cool dude. Check out Ryan Myers on YouTube. He's got a very cool and different style, and he's got that, I don't know, he's it's distinctive, that's for sure. I loved it. Hey, 2021, kicking off the year with a bang. I've got Josh James, the Kiwi Bushman. He lives that Kiwi lifestyle, that sort of hunting, camping, fishing, bush skills, and whether it's in the water or above water, it's all good and it's all getting back to nature. And he's a cool dude. I really love his YouTube channel as well. It's the Kiwi Bushman if you want to check it out in advance. That'll be 2021. Otherwise, I'm over and out for 2020. Massive thank you again. Just like I said at the start of the podcast, massive thank you to all the people involved, either listening, sharing, helping out behind the scenes, whatever you do. Massive thank you from me. Merry Christmas. Over and out. Have you ever wanted to slay fish with a weapon of your own creation? Good news for you. Episode 123 of the Noob Spearo podcast with Ed Martin from Killshot Spear Guns lays out the pattern and the plan to help you build your own weapon of death and lay waste to fish with something with your own maker's stamp on it. And along with that, go to today's major sponsor website, neptonics.com. Go to the Spear Gun Builder page and select your components to build that magical weapon, and use the code NOOB10 to save a further 10% off on anything in your shopping basket. So visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% off store-wide. Interesting message today if you are a budget-conscious Spearo. Head to spearfishing.com.au, go to the clearance tab. There's a whole bunch of magic deals and bargains in there. Use the code NOOBSPEARO to save a further $20 on every purchase over $200. That's right, spearfishing.com.au, clearance tab, you'll thank me later.